Well, sometimes the spying that do on us, either the cookies or Google by means of YouTube, can bring positive surprises. And that positive surprise for today is that I was suggested in my YouTube feed very, very well rounded a cast for Il Trovatore, this very, very well and very much acclaimed, very well known opera by the great Maestro Giuseppe Verdi. And I'm sharing with you that this is a very positive surprise because in days where the casts are so uneven, you have a great soprano but a no so good tenor, or maybe an average soprano, an average tenor, and a very poor baritone, or a very poor role in this case a Zucchena, the mezzo, which with these uneven casts, one usually leaves with the sensation that something is missing because you say, oh, well, I had the opportunity of watching Norma, and it turns out that the soprano was very well, but the Polione, no, Polione didn't do a good job. And by the way, the noise that you heard in the background was our dear boy, I think it was Neko or it was Kwoshka. Well, the two of them ran at the same time, so I'm not sure. Sorry for the noise in the background. So if you've been following the shorts and other videos, the voice of the new voice in the family, so you are aware of who Neko and Kwoshka are. So going back to this rounding of where you have a very good singer in one of the roles and not a very good one in the other, and this leaves you, well, the best of the Trovatore was only Azucena, but what about Manrico, or what about Leonora, or a baritone with a voice with which really wasn't hitting the mark. That is not the case, and very positively, as I was just sharing, the feed on YouTube suggested me this Trovatore, which, as you can see, it's a film version. This is a film version from Il Trovatore, which makes it interesting in more than one way. Why? Because, and I would like to go, we will find it a little here below. Let me see if I can find it very quickly, because I do not usually read these comments because most of the times, people who write comments on YouTube and other social media are very toxic. They leave very, very, very negative comments, or they always want to be the smart guy in the room, and they want to prove that there is another version where the soprano is not this, but you can find mezzo soprano that, who blah blah blah, and they just use the comments as a place for showing up or for trying to prove their point or just to trying to forget that their life is not what they want. But very positively, I found that there are not these clashes and these shameful attacks, one another person and all of that. But I would say that maybe around 90% of the comments are very positive, not positive in the way that they are saying everything is perfect and everything is fine, which may be just platitudes, which we don't like either, but that in a good number of these comments, they add to to the quality not only of the video but to the quality of the comments of what people think of this recording. And among this recording, going back to why I was telling you that this was a film production, not a stage production, is that it was in fact the first one. If you read French, then it says quand je écoute ça et quand je vois les productions actuelles de l'Escalo de Vérone, mon cœur pleure de la même mère d'incompréhension. Comment avez-nous pu tomber aussi bas? And that means that when I listen to this and when I watch the current productions at La Scala or at Verona, my heart cries such bitter tears that I don't understand how could we have fallen so low. And if you have watched on TV or in YouTube or any other media, many recent productions that have very creative directors, but adhere very little to what the actual story is told in a given opera. And so that is why, and also keep in mind that when you are watching stage production, there are limitations that are natural to that means. Wish one could have all the angles, one on the stage we could represent, but there is a limited space. So it is in the best interest of the directors to give us the best, however, they do what they can with the resources. But in this film production, it is the environment of Il Trovatore is more recreated, which I really liked. Going back not only to the fact that there is this positive filmed production, I was sharing with you that for me this is a well-rounded cast. Going back to the well-rounded cast, because in the cast we have the great tenor as Manrico, Maestro Carlo Bergonzi, a great tenor of whom I have shared a previous blog entry very, very recently. We have Antonietta Stella, who is an Italian soprano as well. In fact, the first video blog entry, so Antonietta Stella is back here. We have Azucena, a mezzo that I have never heard of, Adriana Lazzarini, but who does the job. So she does the job. And Azucena is one of the hardest Verdian mezzo soprano roles ever written. So maybe we should work on a blog entry for that because there is another post for Street de la Vampa, and Street de la Vampa is already an episode for season 7 of the podcast. But I think that Azucena needs to be studied and shared further. So I think I will take a note on that and I will work for you on that post later. As the Conte di Luna, we have the extraordinary baritone Piero Capuccilli and the secondary role of Ferrando, Plinio Clavasi. So Italian voices that you could hardly ever find nowadays. So in the 60s, everything aligned so that we could have Antonietta Stella, Bergonzi, Capuccilli, Lazzarini, and Basile, as well as Clavasi, in this recording of Il Trovatore. Unfortunately, and we remember that criticism does not mean to say everything is wrong, but platitude is the opposite, just saying that everything is beautiful just because it's beautiful. There are some things that called my attention. One of them is that, for instance, Leonora here, Antonietta Stella, is skipping the cavatina right after D'Amor sull'Ari Rosé, and you know that that one is right after. In fact, it is a complete full scene for Leonora, starting with D'Amor sull'Ari Rosé, then we have the Miserere, and then we have the cavatina, which is very super hard. So for me, for a film production, it is weird that Antonietta didn't want to go for it. So my thoughts are that she has some trouble dealing with very difficult part, so she decided not to expose herself, even if recorded film production. Um, Azucena also skips. There is a high C for Azucena in her very, very, very long scene of Azucena in the second act that is also omitted. In the third act, there are also a couple of passages that are cut that are also my surprise, and there are several high notes that are skipped. But I have to mention to you, and maybe that deserves also another entry, another video blog entry. Many of the high notes that we like to give the singers an applause for, many of them, in fact, are not written in the score. Many times our tradition has come that singers add a C, a high D, an E flat, or whatever, or a Si bemol, or an A sharp, added even if it's not written. So this version of Il Trovatore skips most of them. But what really, really, really leaves me very satisfied is to see this well-rounded cast where I feel comfortable listening to all of them and not as it happens recently that one prefers to run away once one of the singers starts singing. So if you feel like it, go and watch it as well. I will keep a link to this recording in the description of this post.